All right. Hey, everybody, it's Matthew Newberger here from Newberger and Company. And today we're talking with Jim Bartley. And we're going to be talking about what Jim has done. Jim is the CEO of his company. Jim, do you want to give sort of a quick background on your company, what you do? And then we're going to talk a little bit about some of the decisions you've made recently in this, COVID environment. As March rolled in, you made some very important decisions about your business, which I think have led to some near-term success that I think would help other business leaders. But why don't we start with a little bit of background on you and your company? So tell us a little bit about yourself before we move forward.
I'm Jim Bartley. We are Bartley Corporation is the name of the company. We're a concrete foundations contractor, and we offer a myriad of services around concrete foundations in the commercial realm and the residential realm, in the Maryland, Washington, Baltimore, Frederick, Annapolis region, and reaching out to the Eastern Shore.
Yep, great outline, and it should be known here. Jim has been a longtime client of Newberger and Company, but interestingly, when COVID happened, we had a call together where Jim had explained to me and to members of my team, hey, look, I'm going to make some changes in my business. And while we were probably not one of the biggest investments or even close to one of the bigger expenses in your business every year, we did have a conversation about how we were going to work that relationship in the short term. And this actually came right after we were at a Sandler conference in Florida together, right? We were just, we knew that things were going down, but at that point, people were still getting together in the same room.
We had a sense that was the last
place
we were going to be at for a while.
Yeah.
And after that conference, when we came back juiced up with tons of ideas, and I had the benefit of collaborating with you and your team. It was only a couple weekends or a weekend later that the governor had directed us to take significant measures in the COVID crisis.
Yep.
And it went down on a Friday, and I spent all weekend working on protocol, knowing that we needed to continue to operate as an essential business, and we're blessed to have the opportunity to continue to operate, and we're also blessed to have a lot of outdoor work. So we felt like we needed a series of protocols right away. It happened almost with no collaboration. It was just think it, write it, say it, do it. And I was amazed at the response of our team, because as I was sending stuff out on Saturday and Sunday, they were springing into action and implementing. And by the time I arrived on Monday morning, we had implemented some major movements and cleanup and protocols just in a weekend.
So tell me a little bit about that, because as you know, we do a lot of work in the construction industry. As you know, we work with a lot of your friends and the people that you do business with. And who did you get together? Who you did this kind of over the weekend. Who did you pull together on your team? What functions inside the company were represented?
The beauty of it is I didn't pull anybody together.
All I did was send
emails to everybody, and people just started acting. And this is what is amazing about this time, is there's this human interaction. Yes, we're distancing, and yes, we're isolating, but there's also this tremendous sense of purpose and working together. And I felt it from day one when we started just kind of getting our ducks in a row to operate for the coming week. And the example is our fleet and yard and office maintenance and our office staff. We had to rearrange things, clean up things, get things ready for Monday morning. And that group of people that really take care of our facility, I didn't ask them to do anything. They just reported that the things that were getting done based on the information I was sending out. So I was highly impressed with that.
So over the weekend, if I've got it right, you created, if you will, some sort of a document with instructions on what needed to be done, and you distributed that out to the appropriate party.
I did. I created a document for office protocol, for vehicle protocol, job site protocol, and we had to operate under a certain protocol the following week. So we had to be ready for that, and that was step one. And then really step two for us was to try and manage ourselves financially for the what ifs. Not knowing whether we were going to be shut down like Pennsylvania was in construction, or whether we were going to remain open. If we're going to remain open, what kind of money were we going to have to devote to additional PPE, additional fuel, vehicles, quarantining individuals? We just didn't know what was coming.
Yeah, and it's almost been a weekly change, right? I mean, it's not only is it, if a job site becomes contaminated or your office becomes contaminated, or it's, did you get your PPP loan, or did you not get it? And then once you got it, if you did get it, what are the rules, and do you pay it back? Do you not? And what's considered tax? It's like a daily thing right now. So these protocols you put out, you actually called people out specifically and said, we have a term we use in the organizational excellence program you've been involved with, RACI, like responsible, accountable, consulted, and informed. So you sort of said, look, you're accountable for this, you're accountable for this, and these are protocols that we need to now follow.
That's correct.
What's that?
Correct.
And then you said that was really stage one. What was stage two?
Stage two really happened after the first weekend, and that was financially get our ducks in a row. And yeah, we did talk to our vendors, and
we were in fairness, so everybody knows, full transparency, we were one of those vendors you had that conversation with.
We did adjust some things with you and other vendors, as I said, not knowing what was coming, right. And we still don't know what's coming, but we've had a taste of some major disruptions along the way. And, so price increases have been frozen as a result. Our services have been modified. Some layoffs occurred. Probably in that was the next phase, I would say, is we actually went through and assessed our team. We had some people that we were investing in that we decided no longer to invest in. So we pulled the plug on some of our plans based on the situation at hand. So that was very difficult. But I would say that was the next step. But simultaneously, we had to get everybody used to the idea of working safely and completely differently than they had been working. We didn't have time to get them to buy in or get used to it. It was we had to push it. And yeah. So I would say simultaneously, phase two was financial, was assessing personnel, assessing services, but at the same time, getting all of our people that were on the ground working to work under the new protocol.
It's interesting. I have to imagine that part of the financial equation is having talks with people about, that might have been expecting a raise, or did you have to ask anybody to take, decreases, in this environment? Because that, you have to battle sort of that. And then some people even thinking, wow, well, the unemployment package has actually gone up a little bit. Maybe that's more attractive. Did you find that human aspect of dealing with money was hard? Was there any process in dealing with that, or did that go very smoothly for you?
The decisions were hard, but we made the decisions and then it went smoothly because essentially, and this doesn't apply in all cases, but for the most part, the tough decisions were in some layoffs that we underwent.
Yeah.
We considered a pay cut across the board, but we felt like we're asking so much of our employees that we decided not to go that route. And I'm glad we didn't thus far, because the response, which I would call phase 3, is our employees are doing amazing work at keeping each other safe.
That's fantastic. And this phase 3, employees taking care of each other in that phase, that's great. I have to imagine there's one of the things that I see business leaders do, and they make this mistake all the time, is they take too long to make a decision, and that creates more stress on the company. I'm guessing, but I don't know, that the people that you were straight with, whatever the decision was that you made, were appreciative that you, in fact, were decisive, and allowed them to then start either going and, dealing with unemployment, finding more work, or understanding they were part of the team moving forward and that they needed to get back to work and not worry and wonder whether they had a job.
Yes, I think decisiveness was a key element to this, to us getting through this together. We have a very strong leadership team, and one example of decisive action was when we got our leaders together after the first weekend, and we said, okay, here's where we are. What do we have to do next? We all got on the truck line at 4:50 in the morning, and all of us greeted every truck and every employee that was in that vehicle, and talked through all the protocol that we'd written down, one by one, vehicle by vehicle, crew by crew, I should say. And that was a defining moment in the way we operate in this crisis. And we got so much from it in terms of our co-workers listening, learning, executing from that truck line at 4:50 in the morning, that we never stopped it. It goes on today.
Wow.
And there is a company leader on that truck line every morning talking with some sort of a twist about the protocols that we need together to get through this together. And that's been a best practice that our leadership team came up with, and we haven't stopped it.
I really like that. And I think that, we talk a lot, and I'm talking with you and other business leaders about how some things have changed, and they're actually better as a result of new protocols, new ways of doing business. This seems like one of those ones, and I'm emphasizing it because there are people that we work with that are telling us that the business leader is not communicating, or the leadership of the company is not communicating with them. So they don't know what's going on. And in certain cases, they're not sure what the company's position is on a protocol, or just what's going on with the, sort of the regular changes that are happening. And I'm such a huge advocate for getting with your people. And again, obviously saving, with social distancing, but making sure that you're getting a sense of how they're doing. They're hearing directly from you and getting to ask questions. You're both learning in the process, and you're becoming stronger, and you are creating this esprit de corps, right? We're here. This isn't just for the employees. This is something everybody is going through together. And I think that's a great third phase of continuing this communication with some new idea, something new involved. And there's one other thing that I would say. There's sort of a glue that I've seen, and you, through the process of creating the vision for your company, you created a very specific story-like vision about your company. And I believe your employees all have really embraced it. And I believe that's part of what's gotten them from phase 1 to phase 2 to phase 3, because they know you are explaining where the company is going, not, not in spite of, or maybe if it's, you're going there. This is a temporary thing you're going through now, but you have a very compelling, you've really inspired a shared vision at your company about what you'll become. Has any of that changed? Has any of that talk changed, or has that remained intact to this day?
Well, I would say that what we struggle with, Matt, is communication. We all, our leadership team communicates well one-on-one, I think, with our coworkers, but we've struggled with getting a message out. And when we wrote our vision for the company and we shared it, we brought the company together to listen to an audio version of our vision. And we did that because we felt like that was going to reach everybody. I don't know that we got our message out, but here's what I feel now with this crisis. We didn't have a choice but to get it out. And so what we decided to do was robocall, which we had never done before, send video messages to all of our coworkers' personal phones. We've never done that before. Email all of our protocols to all of our email addresses within the company. That's not new, but the written word is great backup. It's a good resource, but it's really not the way you communicate. And so in addition to pushing the message out by voice and by video, we've pushed it out by being on the truck line and talking with, and on the job sites, talking with our coworkers. And the other thing that I didn't mention about communication is that our project managers have taken it to the field, and they hold daily huddles every morning with their crews. And our foreman, if there's not a project manager there, they do it as well. And we talk about three things. We talk about the goals of the day, the dangers represented by the job site, and we've added COVID to this daily huddle. And our project managers are getting it done in the field. They're making sure that we communicate every day, so nobody can forget the protocol. Everybody understands, and everybody knows that we care and we're working together. That has given us all this tremendous new appreciation for each other that I felt like was lacking even as we were discussing our vision for the company. I think only now might it becoming real because we're really talking to each other now.
There is no substitute for that conversation, and taking it to anything, like you said, sending an email or putting something in a document is fine. Just because you sent it to somebody doesn't mean they read it, they understood it, or they know what to do with it. So I like the way you're getting together with your crews, and you've got three things you're discussing. If I could give you one more thing that I think is really cool that we've instituted recently, it's asking people to recognize each other in the work that they've done recently. And that seems to be where coworkers will call each other out, and there's a sense of pride and accomplishment in being called out on something that was maybe a little bit above and beyond, and it creates this really cool momentum. I have to say that just talking about, what's going on, what's the project, what are the risks of the job site? The subtext of that is we want to keep you safe. We want to make sure we review all of this. And then lastly, talking about any changes with COVID. So those three things, to me, that's powerful. And I would bet you that not all the folks in the construction world that are working outdoors or indoors actually understand are doing that. So I think that is really a key thing. I could go on, we could talk for hours on this. I think you've dropped some really good, valuable nuggets on our audience that's listening. I'm wondering if through what you've been through so far, if there would be any advice you would offer based on either what we've shared or maybe something else that you realized, what would be the thing, if you could go back and talk to yourself at the beginning of this thing, you would have emphasized, hey, do this or do that. What would that advice be?
In terms of what we would do differently?
Yeah, anything else, like anything else you would say, we should do this, or I should act faster here or slower here. Was there any lessons learned from the process so far?
Lots of lessons learned. Mostly as we muddled through it, our people guided us. So the biggest benefit of this whole process is that we are one Bartley family, which is one of our values, which is part of our vision. We are now more than we ever have been. So it's hard to say what we would have done differently. We made a lot of mistakes along the way, but we just corrected them as we went. And the only way we were able to do that is communicating with our people. I think that that's what I would leave you with, Matt, is that the real golden nugget for me has been our people, as we talk about the protocols and things, they're looking out for me. I'm asking them to take care of each other, and they're saying, Jim, you take care too, and so yeah. That's the best thing for me that has happened in this process. And so to look back and say, what could we have done differently? Maybe I went too far with some early decisions, but I felt like we needed to cover our bases. So I'm not going back and undoing. If I had a chance to do it again, I'm just enjoying the camaraderie along the way.
So actually work in some ways has become a little bit more meaningful.
To all of us, yes. But isn't life that way now?
Yeah. Well, it's right. I mean, look, what I've noticed in people when they distance each other and don't communicate is they begin to invent stories that are not true about what's going on. And they tend to make themselves the victim in the story. By communicating, what you've done is you've closed that gap. And there's fear in communicating sometimes when you've got to tell somebody, hey, look, your job might be on the line. But when people communicate, all those stories, those hallucinations go away. And you realize that person's just as worried as you are and that you are in this together. That can only happen if you communicate, and you're communicating daily like you are. So my hat's off to you. As you look forward now and you look at the future, right? We all know things in 10 years are going to be fine. But in 6 months from now or a year from now, there's a lot of questions. My guess is what you're going to tell me is we're going to keep up our communication. We're going to continue to share that vision. We're going to continue to be in this together. Those are going to be the things you do going forward. As we all we just don't know, when is there going to be a vaccine? When can we all be around each other again? Will we shake hands again, or will we bow? What will we do? Right? All these different questions we ask ourselves. But is that what you're going to focus on? Is communication going to be the thing that is going to be a high priority going forward, or is it something else?
Well, we've made some mistakes, Matt, along the way that have had some fallout due to either lack of communication or or just not doing it well enough. And that's what I would change going back. Now, moving forward, I'm going to take what we've learned and use those best practices to continue working together and pushing forward. But really what we have to look at now is, how do we operate differently? This is a change event for our society. It is going to redefine how business is done in many sectors and in different ways in all sectors. Yeah. And so we have to look at the opportunities that are presented. We have to look at the new pitfalls that exist. And so we're going to continue to optimize our process, but we have a new set of circumstances that we have to look at. So that's where we're looking right now, is how do we get out of this, get through this, and continue to optimize our business, not necessarily with the same ideas that we had going in.
So, you know, there's an interesting article that I read from the Harvard Business Review, and it talked about 4 types of companies. It talked about companies that go into protectionist mode, right? You're worried about everything, so you go into full protection mode. You fire as many people as you can. You cut costs everywhere. You get down to, where it's just you running the business and doing all the work, that kind of crazy stuff. And then you have these others that go into a promoter mode, where it's like, hey, this is an opportunity. Let's go get as much of the work out there that we can get because everyone else is struggling. And then you have these pragmatists, or they're pragmatic, which is, well, I'm gonna cut and I'm gonna do a little bit of promotion. And then you got this 4th group, and this 4th group is a group that essentially is very, very focused on they make a distinction in how do I reduce my costs through efficiencies, and how do I retarget my audience? In other words, where is my audience now? Your audience may have changed. And how do I make sure I focus my attention on my audience that needs me now and is going to need me in a year from now? And through the communication you're doing with your team, in this last group is called the progressive group. What the article said was, those are the ones that come out of the recessionary type environment the strongest and with the best growth patterns. And some of the things you're talking about are definitely creating efficiencies. Your meetings with your team, protocols being established very quickly and communicated to the team effectively. These are making you more efficient. You've cut some costs, but you didn't go wholesale cutting. You continue to watch and you have a plan. But then on the other side, what are you doing to make sure that you're targeting your audience? Are there efforts being made there to target that audience and make sure they're communicating with you through these kind of uncertain times?
And I would say we're making efforts to communicate with our customers, having learned the value and the importance of communicating with our coworkers, that we also need to do the same thing with our customers. So we're making efforts there, and the more you talk to your customers, the more you understand where they are, and you don't get blindsided by new price points and new ways of buying.
Yeah.
And you might uncover some new ways of buying that are beneficial to you, and you can offer something that others can't. Have we done a great job of that? I don't know, Matt, but
sounds
we're
like
trying.
something for the future. Sounds like that's part of phase 3 or phase 4.
But yeah, it's something that we're doing every day and every week, and so it's that, and understanding where what type of projects are coming. This is another thing that we need to look at because we're in construction. What are the designers doing right now? What's the next wave of projects going to look like? And so we need to uncover that in order to plan for that and optimize for coming out of this COVID-19 economy.
Yeah, and I think you said something that I think is very, very important is your customers will tell you where the need is. and they will guide you just like your team will. So it sounds like that next phase is really taking everything you've improved upon in terms of communication with your team and applying those to your customers in the field in general that will be telling you where the work is coming from. So what I'm taking away from this conversation is a couple things, and I do have a request for you at the end of this. And the things I'm taking away are that, one, you've got to act decisively. Your employees value that. Even if you can't keep all your employees, acting decisively and clearly makes it easier for everybody involved. Making sure you have documented protocols. Then making sure you're communicating those protocols, if you're in construction, to your crews daily, right? And then making sure you're communicating that in a way where there is some proximity, obviously with safe, social distancing included, but to get with them, because not only do you have to share those protocols, but you have to see how they're doing. And there's a certain amount of we're in this together that comes from that. And I would imagine the many construction companies want to feel that sense of community or family, as you called it, as part of the company. And you can't say that if you're not acting like it, right? So speaking with your teams and having those stand-ups with your crews daily, to me, is just outstanding. I think it is rare, and I think I know if I asked you, you would be humble about this, but I know that that's something that your people absolutely appreciate. I don't know whether they say it out loud. My guess is they are, from some of the stories you told me, but that they absolutely appreciate being able to look at you and get a sense of how you're doing, because ultimately, if you're not doing well, that means they're not doing well. So they obviously want to do well.
And we do appreciate working with each other. I mean, so that has been a huge benefit to us.
And so, I think that the last thing I'll take, and this is a point that could have been missed by some people, but I want to make it because you made it, and I think it's such an important point. It depends on how you look at work. It depends on, you run a business, you pay all the bills, you worry about all of your people. It's an extreme, some people think that, running a business is glamorous, and you're experiencing the not so glamorous side of the business right now, as many of us are. But this fact that this is bringing you closer together, to me, is part of the, the gift of what anyone has the opportunity to do by communicating, by making sure that you're clear on what changes are happening, you're clear on what protocols are, you're clear on risk and pointing it out and making sure people avoid it. Those types of things, ultimately, that communication is what makes the business more enjoyable. Now, no one would wish any of this on anybody, right? This whole COVID situation, but one of the things that I think business leaders can all get out of this is by communicating more effectively. They can actually enjoy the work, and they can enjoy their team and their company more. And I think that's a key point.
It is, and there's a benefit to being able to work in the same environment, not having to do Zoom meetings, because you can't Zoom your way into building concrete foundations. So and the reason we acted so quickly and early to get protocol is because we had to be on the front line, meaning we had to work together. We had to help each other attempt to distance, but understand that there's certain activities where you need special protocols. It is an example on how we as a society go back to work in the midst of this crisis. We're not going to wait for the thing to blow over before we start moving about. It's apparent in certain states they're already opening. And so if we all can really adopt certain protocols, adapt our habits rapidly, decisively, we will not be unscathed, but we will be able to function as a society. And so we have this special experience in construction that we have had to interact face to face, and we've had to interact with our customers face to face on job sites. And so we have a level of confidence that we can do this.
Yeah, and your people need that confidence. That's leadership. And I do have one last request for you. You're going through this as a community, in the construction community. We're all going through this together. If somebody sees this and wanted to reach out and just ask you questions about how you did something, would that be okay? Would you mind?
Of course.
Sharing ideas back and forth. I mean, I know you're part of our family, right? And you share with our organizational excellence group all the time. And so, if somebody's watching this and thinking, geez, I didn't do a good job. I didn't get out of the gate real well. And now I'm not quite sure how to fix that. I think some words of wisdom from your experience might be very helpful to some of those out there. And obviously we care about the construction community a lot, and we want to make sure that it continues to thrive and emerges from this healthier and better, and even, in a lot of ways, more productive than when they went in, with a lot of lessons learned. So I guess I'll leave it there with, saying thank you for doing this. I appreciate it. And I know that everyone who's going to watch this will appreciate what you shared, and hopefully be introspective and ask how they're doing in those areas, and maybe just make their business a little bit better for not only themselves, but for their coworkers. Well, so thank you. Any words before we go?
Yes, thank you, Matt. You all, and Neuberger and Associates gives us that platform, that opportunity to collaborate with lots of different folks in different industries. And I'd be glad to talk to anyone that would like to compare notes. Beware that I'll be learning more from you than you probably will from me. And I will share plenty of dirty laundry of the things that the mistakes we made along the way as well, because we can also learn from our mistakes. But Matt, thank you very much for everything that you do. You're a great leader, and you bring people together, and it's been a real pleasure.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the time, and I appreciate your willingness to share. But I know a lot of people are a little bit nervous about doing that. So thank you.
You're welcome.